Alright guys, HyDra here and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. ZooMaa and Scrappy getting into it again before the upcoming CDL matches. Scrap says that after this Stallions project has yet again stalled this season, ZooMaa should just call it a day, save his money, and stop bothering with the Stallions after all the players, at least for his team, fail and then they leave and then they go on to do better things. ZooMaa though has other ideas, some big CDL matches tonight. Yes, it's another 2-match day cooked up by the league. That does not mean that there aren't some interesting games. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Let's get into it with what happened in challenges yesterday, because we had some very interesting results here, right? This is a key time to try and get good if you're in challenges, because the major's just around the corner. That is going to be a critical time if you actually want to get signed into the Pro League. There are some names who have definitely cemented themselves as potential favourites. X looked really good, at least until the grand finals. On that Falcons Academy white roster, dropped to 1.44 against 4 Fun Esports with Peel and those guys. They won a lot of search and destroys to get to this point. They eventually go down. The overload was an 8-0 masterclass. Then, however, it was the grand finals, and this was actually really good to watch. I mean, this final map, well, it was good for good and for bad reasons, because there were some serious throws happening on this final map. A lot of the rounds of both teams were thrown away. And look, at the end of the day, you've got to accept you are watching challenges here. But, I mean, if you look at Project Notorious, Big Wake, ReeaL, Yuli, Geo, players that we've seen in the league before. And the other team is GIGAWAKE. He's been in the league last year. Priester, Arcetes, both world champions. And then X has been in the league. So all players who have been around before, they make it to the grand finals. But, I mean, man, this round, to be honest, Awakening for the final, 3-4 maps of the series, he was playing on a different level to anyone else in the lobby. He looked really good. And he got 2-piece on this round to bring it back to a 2v2. His teammate dies. He's got 15 seconds on the clock. He tags up Arcetes. And then, well, King of Body has a decision to make. Let's just put it that way. Does he stay here and shall Wake? Because Wake has to fly out the window to plant the bomb. He knows that. King of Body could turn to his right and just leg it and run away. But King of Body decides to stand his ground and Chal. And he gets absolutely gunned. Arcetes runs away, which is, to be honest, I think the correct play in this situation. Arcetes has to run away because he's already weak and then just hope that King of Body doesn't blow it, but unfortunately for him, he does. Big Wake gets it down with literally 0.1 on the clock. Then he's in a 1v1 and he plays it really well. Arcetes goes for the flank in the end. Arcetes might have even caught a glimpse of him there, but it didn't actually matter. Awake was already 12-6 at this point. He wins the gunfight 13-6. He was doing it all towards the end of this series. So yeah, Big Wake, undisputably MVP of the Challengers Elite. I think he finished with about a 1.27 over the course of the Elite. So and he had a 1.19 here in the finals of the tournament. So Wake's setting himself up nicely, and it's interesting timing-wise, because obviously Wake was on Boston last year. He was the one dropped for Nasty rather than Cammy, but has Cammy been that good in the Pro League so far? No. What, do you bring Wake back for Cammy this time? I don't know so much about that, right? So yeah, I'm not sure where Wake would go, but right now he is, at least from an AR perspective, and most people are using an AR, he's putting himself in a position to be possibly the favourite to get picked up again. Some people might say, oh, well, it's another player we've seen before, but arguably, should he have been down to challenges in the first place? That's a debate that you can have. So, yeah, Project Notorious, they take the victory. This I thought was also interesting. Warzone Resurgence Series, $1.2 million prize pool. I don't know if anyone plays Warzone anymore, but clearly they do, because the competitive scene is maybe still alive. I guess what's happening here is that the World Cup, they have $1 million tournament. So Activision, Microsoft think, well, if it's going to be placed competitively at the World Cup, then we better at least do something, and it's got to be more money than they're giving out, right? Because that's what they do in the Pro League, like in the CDL. They're like, oh, well, if Activision, if the Esports World Cup are given the 1.5 mil or whatever, we've got to do 1.8 or something for our World Championship so it doesn't look inferior. Maybe a similar thing happening here. But yeah, Warzone continues to chug along from a competitive perspective, but I'm not sure there's as much interest in that as there was. Even recently, we saw Hisoka say that he was going to come play challenges. We've seen, well, Shifty TV said it as well at some point. Not really sure that went anywhere. This is interesting. Simp joins the Kinetic Group, like a new management company. When this happens, it's always interesting because often players will join when they're thinking, oh, what does my future look like with this org? Do I need to negotiate something? But it looks like, and Simp has no doubt about that on FaZe, Simp, though, is looking at it apparently more from a content side. So it'd be nice to see, look, obviously any player doing more content we would be supporting here in the COD scene. It's been a talking point around Simp for some time, because I think he can be pretty entertaining in the right situations. Obviously, he tries to focus on winning, which is he's done a pretty good job of in recent years, but something to think about going forwards. But let's get into this Scrap versus ZooMaa drama, right? So firstly, Scrap was playing a couple of wages, and there has been a bit of talk about the pistol lately. We talked about the overload cheese strat, when you park the bus in spawn, and we saw Sib was not very happy with Falcons doing that. The Falcons Academy have started putting out the strategy as well. There has been lots of talk if the park the bus strat becomes particularly prevalent as to what might need to change, whether the game already needs to be updated post a Major 1 to make some adjustments. You know, one idea would be you reduce the time on the clock, but the clock stops when somebody's got the ball. That's an option. But even then, you know, you might still see teams just camp ball in sport anyway. I don't know, and I don't really know if I like that solution necessarily. I think there are better ways to solve the problem if that's where we find ourselves. One of the arguments, though, is that actually the pistol is so good that it doesn't really act like a 4v3. You know, if the player with the ball was like uplink and he couldn't use a weapon at all, which I don't think is what I would change, but if that was the case, or if the pistols are really weak, which obviously they're not, then it would change the game somewhat. This was even here with Swag Checked. Octane's watching this. Swag Checked just rips this guy off the heady. I mean, hits 3 shots onto Priester and that's job done. It's like, well, if the gun can do that, then it doesn't really matter a lot of the time. But Scrap went on to talk with ZooMaa while that elite was going on yesterday about the state of the Stallions. We know that the Stallions have had a number of very notable players that have gone on to do great things. Mercules, so many other examples. We'll have a look through the whole list in a second. Mercules is probably the key one really to note in the last couple of seasons. And ZooMaa's had this whole thing of, you come from the Stallions, you go on to do great things. That's been the case for some of those players. For others, it's not been. But it's generally been true that the Stallions haven't seen that much success together as the challengers roster that they have been. It's been true for Stallions A, Stallions B, Stallions Red, Stallions Black, whatever. That's kind of how it's been. And even this season, while it's been entertaining and they've obviously had some talent, Stallions haven't really achieved that much. Now, I think it still works, right? Because ZooMaa's able to make the content more entertaining because of the Stallions. There's also other coaches that get involved for good or for bad. You know, Project Notorious, the one, Juju the Don, is their coach. And, based on what he was talking about briefly after the series, looks like he knows what he's doing. Looks like he's got that under lock and key. Stallions is not really the case, right? It's more of a vibes team, right? And that maybe can work, but this year where people are taking it a little bit more serious, there are some questions on that. So Scrap's like, look, there's nobody even bothering anymore. You might as well just save your money because it's not working out.
Bro, explain to me why the NPC is banned. Explain that to me.
The NPC is the one weird one. Give me something else that you have a reason why it's banned.
No.
Okay, exactly. You can't say anything.
I want to know why it was banned. What's the reasoning?
It's broken. It's broken. That's why. That's why it's banned.
Broken.
Is it broken?
Yeah,
Is it broken?
Heads are broken. That's what I'm talking about. You see what I'm talking about? But that gun sucks. Sweetie, there's 8 M15s on some maps, bro. On 2 maps. On 2 maps, there's 8 M15s, bro.
It's not because of the gun.
There's 8 of them, bro. There's 8 of
It's
them.
not because of the gun.
Because of the map, right?
The maps, bro.
Bro, it's both, bro. It's both.
Tommy knows this. He's just
It's
being
both. No, it's both. Sweetie,
I promise you he's just being an
Sweetie,
absolute
Sweetie.
retard. He
Trust
knows
me.
everything
No,
that I'm saying.
Sweetie, it's both. It's both.
Sweetie, he just doesn't want to just be on the back side.
The submachine gun, Sweetie, it doesn't shoot fast. It's so slow. It shoots slow. On a good day.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. You should just chalk all that and save your cash.
I land for
Because
sure.
I'm not gonna lie, you picked up 24 players and fucking they're all dog shit.
That's not true, guys. We've had a 75% rate to the league.
They're all
75%.
awful.
That's right.
And they all get godlike when they
We had a 75% to the league. We can go down the Stallions to the league. I got EWC keep behind me. Beat Miami, everything. Fuck
Ernie, you're
yourself.
talking out your
He talking shoot on you. He talking shoot on you.
Talking about your
talking out your right now.
You
Call
guys
you
are
a B
hard.
word, Swoop.
There's no logic. You're just talking out of emotion.
No, Swooty, there's a lot of logic. I watched the game.
You're
You
being
are horrible.
emotional right now.
Said Swooty a try.
No, it's actually not just Swooty. It's everyone. They're all horrible.
Oh man.
Not encouraged, not HyDra.
We're picking up kids. They're going 16 and 24. They're saying we have a chance.
They're
No,
saying
we have no
Swoop
chance,
shoot his pants, man.
There's no chance, bro. There's zero chance.
Hey, these new cats, man, like they just don't know, bro. They just don't know, bro.
Hey, Major one's right around the corner, Swooty.
So these are all the players that have played from the Stallions since 2022, when the Stallions came around. These are the players that we have seen. So 2 really newly, they played for Stallions at some point. I mean, there'll be so many names here that you'll be like, wow, this is a bit of a throwback. Of course, this is that team that people really keep in mind. And Encourage is appearing here a couple of times because he left and then rejoined and all this. But anyway, Encourage, Lurks, aBe and Mercules. That's probably still the most notable Stallions team that ZooMaa formed, just because, well, Lurks is now in the Pro League, aBe is now in the Pro League, and Mercules is now world champion on OpTic. So, you know, that worked out kind of well. But the argument, I guess, from Scrap is that, well, you know, what happened, right? They left because the team was okay, but wasn't anything special, because the maybe environment on the Stallions, you were watching the matches and trying to coach them or something, like, is maybe not so conducive to the success of the team. And also, even, you know, with the Swooty and Encourage days today, there's always a little bit of drama just around the corner, and that makes for great entertainment. And I don't think that ZooMaa would necessarily change the way that things are, but I think he would like to see them be more successful. Maybe you can't have both in some level, especially with how competitive Challengers is. Illy was there for a bit, you know, Lurks, aBe were back again, Major Maniac played for the Millie, Kips, Zach, Skies was a Stallion for a little bit of time, then Swooty and Symbols, Paulex, Manny, Neum, Drakes. I mean, look at the amount of players here, right? Glowfrosty, Asim, Derek, Symbols is back, then Lqgend was gone, then he was back, and then all this happened, and then Swooty is back again, and with Havoc, and now Havoc's gone. So, and the current team is now Swooty, HyDra, and Encourage. So, yes, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of churn. This doesn't even include, of course, Stallions Black, which is another team worthy of consideration. But, look, there's been a number of players here, some of which have not gone on to do much, fair enough, but a lot of these names, to be fair, have gone on to at least look either better on other Challengers teams or be a notable force at some point, either in the past or in the future, from when they joined in the Pro League. Trakes is now in the league as well, as we know. Former Stallion. Neum, former Stallion. He's maybe going to get into the league soon as well. I mean, you know, who knows about some of these other names at some point. So, look, I don't think ZooMaa should just chalk it up and call it a day with the Stallions. I think it's still good for all parties that this is happening, but I do take Scrap's perspective to some degree and be like, okay, maybe they should have achieved more than they have done. I think ZooMaa was also right to call Scrap out on the whole NPC GA. It's still outrageous that, like, I mean, I don't know, is it cognitive dissonance? Is it some sort of mental gymnastics when Scrap's like, oh yeah, the NPC is so broken, even though nobody was really using it. It was getting like 1 or 2 uses a map maybe at a push. And on maps like Scar, when Shotzzy tried to use it, he was getting absolutely giga slammed. And yet the M15 is somehow fine because, oh, well, it's the maps that are the problem. Well, it's like, hang on a second, you can't have it both ways. If the maps are causing an AR meta, then naturally an SMG cannot be broken in said meta. But whatever, we'll see what happens after the major, whether the pros revisit any of the GAs. That was what Octane said the other day. But let's talk about the games. I mean, I say tonight because I'm still pretending I'm in the UK, but I'm not. I'm on the West Coast in California right now, so I'm up very early, and the matches start at noon for me at this time zone. But yes, let's get underway. OpTic versus Ravens. Really interesting game. I don't know exactly. I mean, I know how to call it. OpTic should win. But Exceed and Ravens have made some good progress lately. This should be an interesting series. I think OpTic, you can't lose to Ravens, really. But they could. And Ravens took a pretty big scalp with Toronto last time out. So, look, I'm going to take OpTic 3-1. But we'll see if the Exceed run can continue. And then Toronto played Gentlemates. Also a really important series right now. Like, that's a banger on paper because both of those teams are 3-2. They both really need to win it to be confident in a comfortable winners bracket seed for the major. and one of them has to lose. So I think I'm going to lean the Gentlemates. But as far as 2 match days go, of which there shouldn't really be any, but as far as they go, there's definitely been worse, right, than we see right here. So yeah, intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.